Most people think 2025 was the year of AI, but they're wrong. It was just a warm-up. In 2026, the real shift will happen in places almost no one is watching. I've spent the last 9 years in deep learning, and today I will give you 7 predictions for 2026, including one that will genuinely hurt you if you aren't paying attention. Let's get into it. Okay, so my first prediction is the following one. We will see the rise of smaller models, and a TLDR for you guys is that agentic systems will be made of multiple tiny AI models, and each of those models will be capable of doing one task extremely well. And before I expand my point, let's guys do a cost comparison. So let's take GPT-4. We have a cost of 3 cents per 1k tokens. And if we compare this to a fine-tuned 7 billion models via Ollama, and I will tell you exactly what is Ollama a little bit later on, we'll have this cost, per 1k tokens, which means it's 300 times cheaper. And if we compute that for 1 million requests per month, it's $30,000 per month versus $100. Then it is a no-brainer for companies to go and look for tiny models instead of large language models. And actually those small models, they are called SLMs, or small language models, in the opposite of large language models. And some examples of those are Google's Gemma. And as you can see here, you have plenty of models. You have Gemma 3, which is a family of tiny models. They range from 270 million parameters up to 27 billion parameters. Those numbers of parameters are still small, compared to the large language models like ChatGPT or even DeepSeek. And you also have SLMs that act as domain experts. For example, MedGemma, which is optimized for medical text and image comprehension. So apart from that, you also have Microsoft Phi models. And the same thing, there are also open models. They also range in terms of parameters. Some of them can be fine-tuned if you want to specialize them into a specific task. It is well explained in Microsoft's website, where you have features like ultra-low latency or multi-modal capabilities, meaning it is able to understand both text and audio and images. And you can customize it, of course, have accurate and relevant answers. So yeah, those SLMs come in many shapes and flavors, and feel free to use them, for your very specific use case. So what we'll be seeing in 2026 is that AI agentic systems will become an orchestration, of small, specialized models, and each of them will be fine-tuned for a very specific task. And I found a nice stat from this company, Super AGI, and here they say, for example, one of our customers in the customer service industry was able to automate complex workflows using our agentic AI system, resulting in a 25% reduction in operational costs, which is something always appreciated, for companies that want to increase their margins. And actually, when you think about it, it makes sense to switch to SLMs, because choosing large models for any task is like choosing the plane as your default vehicle for travel, while you could travel by car or by bus to nearby cities. And basically, you will have small models for specific tasks. For example, let's say we want to extract hooks from a YouTube video transcript, or we want to summarize a sales meeting. And other than that, we will also have SLMs for specific tools and actions. Some will be specialized into scheduling a meeting, some will be specialized in checking a weather, and some will also be trained to add a new lead into a CRM. And you have some initiatives into this area of small language models. For example, Small LM, which is an initiative by Hugging Face. They have a very nice article written here. And by the way, guys, I will make this document available so that you can check all the resources here. Basically, feel free to go over this article. But here they present all the advantages, of using SLMs. Another initiative is called TinyML, but it is a more general approach, because here the goal is to integrate AI models in devices, for example, in phones or inside cars. Basically, any device that is constrained doesn't have a lot of memory. So basically, we want to compress this model and still be able to use it in a constrained environment, basically. And feel free to check their GitHub repo here, and they explain it very well. They say here that the Tiny ML project aims to improve the efficiency of deep learning AI systems by requiring less computation, fewer engineers, and less data to facilitate the giant market of edge AI and AI of things. Or if you feel a bit more adventurous, or you are a technical person, feel free to go over this article here. They present their papers and you can read them and know more about how we can compress those LLMs and those models so that they can be more efficient. There were also some new AI architectures that were presented. For example, the mixture of experts architecture. And basically, instead of one giant model, we route tasks to specialized experts models. For example, if we have the Mistral model, which is an 8 by 7 billion parameters model, it uses 8 express models but only activates 2 per task, and this enables big model performance at small model costs, which is perfect for agentic systems where different agents handle different tasks. We also have Unslot.ai. Feel free to check them out, guys. Their content is very easy to consume, and what they do is that they make it easy for people to fine-tune and train LLMs on specific tasks. And after training those SLMs, what you need is an infrastructure to deploy them. And for that, you have something called Ollama, which is basically specialized into the deployment of small language models, and more specifically, local models. We also have something called VLLM for high performance inference. And by the way, what we mean by inference is once we have a model that is trained, we call inference when we use it, basically. And it's best for companies deploying smaller models at scale with high throughput requirements. And feel free to check them out, guys. They also have some documentation and more information about what they do exactly. Finally, you have a very interesting paper by NVIDIA that is called Small Language Models Are the Future of Agentic AI. I have it here and I highlighted some interesting parts. For example, here in the abstracts, they say that SLMs are sufficiently powerful, inherently more suitable, and necessarily more economical for many invocations in agentic systems, and are therefore the future of agentic AI. And here they say that even a partial shift from LLMs to SLMs will have a significant operational and economic impact on the AI agent industry. And feel free, guys, to read this paper because this is very interesting. But here, one of the ways that they back their position is the following. Here they say that SLMs are already sufficiently powerful for use in agents, or SLMs are more economical in agentic systems. They also say that those models are more flexible, and apart from that, they also state some barriers to adoption to those SLMs. For example, here they say large amounts of upfront investments in centralized LLM inference infrastructure. And here they say that the benchmarks that are used on LLMs are also used on SLMs, which doesn't make sense. And obviously, they also state lack of popular awareness. I would also add another barrier to adoption. You also need some machine learning expertise, in order to choose which are the best models and how to fine-tune them, how to prepare the data sets, how to evaluate them, and so on and so forth. My second prediction is that the AI adoption will be unexpectedly slow. And a TLDR for you guys is that it will take many years before businesses fully embrace AI. And let's think through this using websites adoption by businesses. The first websites for companies appeared in 1993. And in 2024, or 31 years later, you have 27% of small businesses in the US that still don't have a website. And here the exact stat says that 92% of small business owners say a website is essential for brand authority, and yet 27% still don't have one, which means that 30 years later after the appearance of websites, we only have an adoption rate of 73%. If we translate that into the adoption of AI, it means that we should wait at least 20 years before small businesses, which represent 99% of all US businesses, adopt fully AI. And when I say adopt fully, I don't only mean, quick prompt engineering or just asking ChatGPT for some advices and so on. I mean fully integrating AI into either sales, marketing, operations, admin, and so on. And the thing is that every day we have new AI models and new capabilities that look like magic. And the business world would not necessarily change because technology is better, but only depending on the perceived value it has on AI. So just to be clear, it means that if all businesses don't care about AI, then AI will not affect businesses and the business world. And if businesses have a negative preconceived idea of AI, then it doesn't matter if an AI can generate a Hollywood-like commercial ad. And in terms of AI adoption, AI educators will have a big role to play here because they will translate technical capabilities into business value propositions that businesses actually understand. And for businesses, asking the why question is really important. Why do we need AI? Why do we need an agentic system? And because it's the tech of the moment is never a good answer. Basically, businesses, they need to compute a realistic ROI to have a clear idea about the amount of money that they put and the amount of money that they should expect gaining from AI. My prediction number 3 is that we'll see more adoption of RAG systems. And a TLDR is that RAG systems or AI brains for businesses will be among top use cases in 2026. So every company has decades of knowledge logged into emails, documents, databases, and so on, all of their processes, and so on and so forth. And a system will be incredibly valuable if it can answer questions like, why did we stop working with that supplier in 2019? Or what were the key takeaways from last quarter's regional meetings? It's basically like having an infinitely patient analyst who has access to every single document a company has ever produced. And by the way, businesses that will benefit from this are knowledge heavy. And I actually made a video about that. Guys, feel free to check it. I go in details about the type of company that will benefit from RAG systems. I also found a nice market research where here they are trying to forecast the global market of RAG. And here, as you can see, from 2025 up to 2034, it is expected to grow at a very good growth rate, almost like an exponential growth. I also got a nice survey about the adoption and uses of LLMs among US tech workers, and it was made in July 2025. And one of the key takeaways is that search is the top use case of LLMs by tech workers. And basically, information retrieval is key. You have some general RAG systems that anybody can try. For example, here, NotebookLM. And feel free, guys, to go to notebooklm.google. It is very clearly explained, and here it is stated that it is your research and thinking partner grounded in the information you trust, built with the latest Gemini models. And apart from generalist RAG system, you also have specialized RAG systems, which are vertical ones for specific industries. And here, for example, you have a startup called Harvey, which is specialized for the legal firms. And you guys can go to harvey.ai if you are curious to know about exactly what they do. But I can imagine that they have access to thousands of contracts, and they use a combination of those contracts, this data, plus some smart models like LLMs and so on, so that we can answer questions in an accurate and specific way. My fourth prediction is that we'll be seeing breakthroughs in AI algorithms in 2026. And a small summary for you is that basically bigger models are unsustainable from an energy perspective. And AI researchers will find new and cheaper ways to process vast amounts of data. AI techniques were designed to mimic the brain, and yet the brain consumes only 20 watts, while data centers use hundreds of megawatts to train large language models like ChatGPT. And the brain can learn driving in only 70 hours, while full self-driving is not a solved problem yet. So something is odd right here, and something is not adding up, right? Just like attention mechanism was a breakthrough back in 2017, and it allowed AI models to speed up training phase, and basically it was a new architecture of AI model to process text data. AI researchers right now are forced to find new ways to process data in a smarter way. And from a hardware point of view, this is being done by multiple companies. For example, you have Grok, which designed the LPU, or Language Processing Unit, which is basically just like a CPU, but designed specifically for LLMs to have a very fast inference. And by the way, what Grok is doing is that inside of their data centers, they are hosting open source models, for example, GPT OSS models, and they are running them onto their hardware so that you can have a faster answer. Another company which developed specialized hardware is called Cerebras. And here, as you can see, they were founded in 2015, and basically they introduced those chips and those systems. And feel free to go over their history. It seems very interesting. And from a hardware standpoint, you also have something called neuromorphic computing. And pay attention to this term. You might hear it more often this year. And it's basically about replicating the structure of brain cells into hardware. And finally, you have something called photonic computers, which is about a new paradigm in computing. So basically, all the computers that you use right now, they displace data using electrons. What if we could displace data using photons or light inside of a computer? And you have a company that is called Light Matter that is exactly doing that. And you should check their website. It's actually very interesting what they do. Moving on to my fifth prediction, we will see more AI acquisitions from GAFAs. And the TLDR for you guys is that we should expect more announcements of AI startup acquisitions for hundreds of millions of dollars or even billions of dollars. So you gotta realize that from a GAFA point of view or a big tech point of view, it's cheaper, easier, and faster to buy or simply acquire, disruptive companies or products than to deploy internal resources to grow it internally. You gotta see those big companies as big as bots, and those small startups that are growing very fast, you need to see them as jet skis. And it's much easier to maneuver a jet ski than a big boat, right? So every time you will have an idea, not necessarily an AI idea, and some people will tell you big companies could easily execute or copy your idea, this is how you should answer. That it's basically cheaper and faster for big companies to let those startups grow and then acquire them. And in last month, in December 2025, Meta acquired Manus AI for $2 billion. You can check them at the website manus.im, but basically what they allow you to do is to create all sorts of AI agents. And here they have a YouTube video where they are basically showcasing one of the AI agents that you could create via their technology. Here actually it's quite impressive because just based on a prompt, you are able to create a website which is interactive and does a technical analysis for you, for your trading. And as we speak, literally a few days ago, you have OpenAI that acquired Torch for $100 million. And Torch is a health tech company that analyzes health data. You have a nice article on TechCrunch where here they say that the Torch team called their tech a medical memory for AI, unifying scattered records into a context engine. And actually this is quite important because nowadays, when we talk about health data, you have your medical records, the results of your x-rays, maybe some drug prescriptions, and so on and so forth. And if you are able to unify or put all of this data into one place and put on top of it a smart large language model that you are able to query and ask questions, and those answers will be accurate, specific, and fast and cheap, then it makes this technology extremely valuable. And my prediction number 6, which you guys might not expect, is that big successes in non-generative AI will go unnoticed. And a TLDR for you guys is that contrarian AI entrepreneurs will silently gain market share in non-gen AI in 2026. So right now, everyone is hypnotized by generative AI, which means it is a golden opportunity for contrarian entrepreneurs. The type of entrepreneurs who keep looking at places where nobody else is looking at. So as a quick reminder, let's compare Gen AI versus non-Gen AI. So Gen AI is about synthesis and creation. You use LLMs to create text, You also use them to create videos, audio, and so on. Non-gen AI is about pattern recognition. It's about decision making and prediction. And I have some examples of non-gen AI here. So let's say we are working in the finance industry and we want to predict the stock market because we want to place some trades. Or we want to decide on what is displayed in your YouTube feed. So Google, every single day, they are using some non-gen AI models that are called recommendation engines to decide which videos will be on the sideline of your YouTube video or the ones that appear in your YouTube home feed. Some other type of non-gen AI is about fruit counting, and this can definitely be used by farmers, to count the number of fruits that were produced this year. You also have something called predictive maintenance, that is a type of non-gen AI, and basically it's about trying to predict when a machine will fail. And when I say a machine, it could be a motor, it could be a car, it could be a bus, and so on and so forth. And here DHL, they are using this technology so that they are reducing the cost of maintenance for their fleet. And the whole purpose of this technology is to minimize downtime. We also use non-gen AI for new drug design. So let's say we have a drug against a headache, but this drug has bad side effects. What if we could use non-gen AI techniques to come up with a new drug that will have the same effects but no side effects? Or for new material design, imagine we are working in the defense industry and we are designing a new tank and we need like a new shield for this tank. And basically we need to invent like a new material that will be covering this shield, so that the tank is more protected. So as you can see, non-gen AI will go unnoticed. People are not aware about it, but we will see big success about it. And one of the big players in this field is a company called C3.ai. Let's go over their website. It is very interesting because if you scroll down and let's see who are their clients. The US Air Force is one of their clients. Shell, or Koch Industries, which are, I think, in the chemical industry. And here you have more details about their customers. As you can see, non-gen AI is big. And because of the fact that everybody is talking about LLMs and all those video models, you will definitely see entrepreneurs that will take a look at what can be done in this area and will definitely penetrate the market using non-gen AI techniques. And if you want one example of big success in non-gen AI that went unnoticed is InstaDeep. They were founded in 2014 and they were acquired in 2023 for $680 million. And you have an article which is very nice. This is their founder. One of the founder, which is called Karim Begir. And in this article, you have a nice story about their founding, what they have done, and so on and so forth. And basically what they do is that they are an AI agency or like a company that is specialized in reinforcement learning, which is about AI for decision making. And that's the type of AI that is non-gen AI, but still has a lot of value. And finally, my seventh and last prediction is that we will see more cybersecurity hacks and attacks. And a summary, guys, for you is that an explosion in cyber attacks will happen due to AI-assisted code generation and pressure to release AI products. And let me explain. Basically, vibe coding enables an explosion in code generation. And because of that, you will see tons of API keys that are exposed and bugs that could be exploited by hackers. And if you Google AI-generated code security vulnerabilities, you will see here things like SQL injection, XSS, or hard-coded secrets. And what I say here is that big players will make mistakes too, because if everybody is rushing to release new AI products, then naturally those products will contain bugs and exploits that will be used by hackers. And I don't know if you remember, but within 24 hours of launch of Anti-Gravity, which is the new tool, from Google, they had bugs that could be exploited. And if you Google anti-gravity exploit, you will see basically this sentence is everything you need to know. This could allow malicious actors to perform arbitrary code execution, data theft, and establish persistent backdoors. The two most dangerous things are arbitrary code execution, because a hacker could encrypt all of your data and just basically install a ransomware inside of your computer, oblige you to pay if you want to get your data back. And persistent backdoor, it means that an attacker could have access to your computer silently. For example, if you have a powerful GPU, an attacker could program something so that whenever your computer is not running or not doing anything, your GPU could be mining for Bitcoin, And if we go back to my previous point about vibe coding and exposing API keys and so on, there is a nice Reddit article that says vibe coders are getting hacked. And basically, this guy is asking the question, how are you handling your app security? So naturally, people that are not technical will not know how to secure apps, Another point is that the hackers can automate the checking of vulnerability inside the websites and also automate the attack of websites, which is very bad. A summary of this prediction is that vibe coders who are not careful will see their OpenAI bill explode. The companies might let ransomware infiltrate their network by using AI tools. We will be seeing more DDoS and more data dumping. So that was it, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and learned some things from it. I will see you in the next video. Cheers!